Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Television Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20, and the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9. This morning we're talking tourism in COVIDious times. Everything is in COVIDious times. This morning I have joining us is manager of product research, let me make sure I have it right. Product Development and Research at the Grenada Tourism Authority, Curl Hoshtialik. Good morning, Mrs. Hoshtialik.
Good morning, and how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm very well, thank you.
Nice to know. So we're going to get right into it. Tourism in COVIDious times, bouncing back from the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's first start from what has been done before we get into what needs to be done. Preparing to reopen Grenada for tourist arrivals and so on and so forth. Tell me more about the preparations for that aspect of reopening the tourism industry in the Spice Isle.
Okay, well, all our preparations, we have been steadfast for the last few months, actually a number of months, with our Minister for Tourism, Clarice Modeste-Kerwin, leading the charge for the tourism teams. We have put a lot of things in place. For example, we have been focusing on training, on an inspection and protocols. But to be quite honest, we would have started initially with the protocols, and we would have developed protocols for for 6 subsectors. So we would have developed protocols for the attractions, we would have developed protocols for the accommodation sector, for the food and beverage sector, tourism services, transportation, and water sports. To date, we have done sensitization for over 1,500 persons in the tourism sector. We have actually done training in conjunction with the Ministry of Health for the different tourism entities, and this would focus on safety in the workplace, but in the context of COVID guidelines and COVID protocols to ensure that everybody is ready to reopen. And as you say, in this COVIDious times, right? So, we have done training for way over 2,000 people so far, getting them ready. So that is one of the very most important aspects of what we had to do, making sure, one, that we had the protocols, and for the different subsectors of which I just listed. And of course, in those protocols, we made sure that, we were as detailed as possible. So for example, we know the accommodation sector is one of the largest, or is the largest subsector that we have in Grenada. Of course, when you come in, you must have somewhere to stay, right? You must have to sleep comfortably. And so we would have gone through the protocols looking at protective gear, reception services, understanding that, we have to wear our mask now. So reception services with, that one Grenadian smile that we have to give, that, we have to be able to use our nonverbals a little bit differently. But of course, we have to ensure that our whole Grenadian personality still shines through. So we speak to that. We speak to reception, checking in, checking out, how you have to do things a little bit differently, being tactful, understanding we still need to have that Grenadian charm. Signage was included. How you deal with high touch points, how you deal with laundry services, for example, doing those things separate. Staff, we always think that, we look at the facility, but we don't look at our people. But the protocol has a section that speaks to staffing and what would be required of the business, but also of the staff as well. It has a component for training, goods receiving, and it has a number of things. What to do if you realize that somebody becomes ill, right? So it gives you guidelines in terms of what needs to be done. These protocols, of course, were developed with a number of subsectors and stakeholder feedback. We ensured to actually reach out to sensitize on the standards and to receive feedback from the 6 subsectors as well. That was part of our initial stages of readiness, because we didn't want to just roll out the protocols and, people weren't aware or had an opportunity to feedback. So that was actually done. And then once the protocols were developed and executed, we started the training with the Ministry of Health. Right? Training is still ongoing. And of course, we're working with the virtual times now, so a lot of those things were done via Zoom. But we understood the need for having physical interactions, especially with some of the vendors and some of the taxi operators that did not have the opportunity to be able to link online. And so, we want to make sure that
sorry, Ms. Hostialik, it seems we've lost you. You're a bit frozen at the moment. For those of you on the radio, Ms. Hostialik is just a bit frozen. Internet doesn't always work with us. Technology does not. So let's take a quick break. She's still frozen. Let's take a quick break and see how we can sort this out. Stick and stay to the point. We'll be right back.
Reading is too hard. Reading school books is lame. I'd rather read about children like me and cool things. I can read, but sometimes I don't even know why I have to. It makes no sense.
Why can't we read about things we like?
Reading is the key to unlocking all learning and ensuring that children reach their potential. Here's what the children have to say.
Make reading fun.
Teach me how to read, but let me practice reading with things I like to read.
Talk with me and read with me, at least for a short time every day.
Let me tell you my own stories.
Read, learn, grow. The children are the future. Help them read, learn, grow. So parents, you play your part.
This message is brought to you by the OECS USAID Early Learners Program, funded by United States Agency for International Development.
Get away from your daily stress with a Grenada vacation at the Coyaba Beach Resort. Coyaba is located on the world-famous Granance Beach and boasts 5.5 acres of beautiful garden. We offer excellent service, good food and drink, well-appointed rooms and friendly staff in a safe environment. Facilities include 2 restaurants, 2 bars, swimming pool, water sports, tennis, gym and body treatment rooms. Call 473-444-4129.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Manager of Product Development and Research at the Grenada Tourism Authority, called Curl Hostialik. We had a little bit of technological issues, but we've sorted it out and we're ready to go once again. Yes?
That's right.
All right. So let's get right back into it.
We will not be beaten by technology here.
Amen.
All right.
So before we were rudely interrupted by technology, you were telling us about training of receptionists and so on in preparation for the reopening of the tourism industry.
Yes. It is really so very important that, known as the Spice of the Caribbean and known as people who are warm and friendly, that when we talk about, those protocols and being ready and being trained, that we need to keep those things in mind, understanding that nonverbals are even more important now that when we have to use a mask, right? You don't see that full expression, that full Grenadian, once in a lifetime. That's right. That smile that goes so very, very far, and so very genuine to add that. So yes, we have those protocols that are developed. They're quite detailed, and what we hope and we intend to do is to continue to make them as practical as possible. So we actually have a new segment coming up that's going to be talking to protocols made practical. So we're going to be identifying things that, even if the protocol tells you, well, you need to do this, and you're guided to do that, and it's important for you to do this. What we're trying to do now is to make them have a practical feel to them, right? We actually loaded them on the website, so you can actually access them there. Those persons who actually are inspected and approved because they would have gone through the process are also promoted on our website as well, right? Of course, we need to let our stakeholders know who's ready, who is COVID ready, and of course, COVID smart in doing that and being ready for the tourism industry. So there are quite a number of things that we're doing with regard to the protocols, and we are hoping and for the stakeholders to, of course, come along with us. It is everybody's responsibility that now getting ready for implementation and for action that we all have to do our part. As I say, it's not an easy task, but tourism is certainly everybody's business, and we do have our part to play. But I think sometimes it just means that we need to take it one step at a time and not just take it all in a bulk. Just one gulp is not necessarily the best of things to do. But at the end of the day, we do need to take responsibility and follow the Ministry of Health's guidelines.
Like you said, tourism is important to the industry, to Grenada's economy. But reopening, there's a lot that needs to go into it and needs to be considered, considering the worldwide climate and the presence of COVID. How was it decided when would be the best time to reopen or to relaunch Grenada's tourism efforts?
Well, that decision pretty much was a decision that, we understand. First of all, what I want to say is that, we understand that tourism is a key component of Grenada's economy. The second thing is the importance of understanding what is happening on the global scale, right? And it's really important to have an idea of the dynamics of what is happening externally and how those affect us internally. When you look at what is happening internally, we know that it is very important that we jumpstart the tourism industry, right? And so the decision has been made in order for us to do that. And as a result, everything else that we've been talking about this morning would have taken train, right? The train would have started. So in terms of that, developing the protocols, doing the training, working closely with health to ensure that the inspections are done properly. Now that those are the particular things, understanding that we really do at this time need to reopen the industry. And as part of that, you would note that, we recognize the importance for that economic generation. And as a result, the local campaign, Paradise at Home, was launched because of that. We need to be able to ensure that engine continues to work. And we too, as Grenadians, be it where we're not actually moving from one parish to another to stay or spend a night in a facility. It's just a matter of exploration, and we become visitors as well. The things that we normally do on a regular basis, or should I say that we don't normally do on a regular basis. We take the kids out to Bathway, we come down to town and do, go to the forts, the fortification, go hiking in Granatan. There are things, that, we have that it's available. And it is really important that we have so many people in this tourism link, so many people that depend on tourism, the smallest of things that sometimes we don't even realize it. The quantity of fish, the amount of tomatoes that the farmer gets, all of those things, because, the demand would be reduced. Their supply also reduced because they won't, of course, make the produce, and then there's no way to sell it. So, there's so many cross-cutting issues and so many cross-cutting opportunities and benefits as well that we need to keep in context when we're talking about tourism. And that is principally why tourism, has to open, because we have too many people there. The sector is so wide that it's important that the benefits continue to be cross-cutting, because tourism does not stand alone. It certainly doesn't stand alone, and we do need to have, there are so many symbiotic relationships.
And with the reopening of the sector, we also see some of the hotels announcing that they are reopening as well, preparing for that aspect, which would mean more tourists coming in as well. How have we prepared for that aspect of the reopening?
Right. So, the hotels, we have over 90 properties in Grenada, right? The accommodation sector is split up into the hotels, the guest houses, the apartments, the villas, and the cottages, right? Across the board, we've actually been starting to do the inspections of these properties. Radisson has been open for the longest of while. I don't think Radisson fully closed at any point. But Radisson is open. The top three of our largest hotels are Sandals, Royalton, and Radisson, right? Sandals is getting to reopen on October 1st. Royalton is getting ready to reopen on the 29th of October. And they've been doing the exact same things in terms of what the protocols were developed for. Preparing their staff with the training, ensuring that their properties are also prepared with the decals, the social distancing, and the signage, ensuring that their staff understands how to go about the communication, how to go about the cleaning, disinfecting, sanitizing. All of these now have become the new normal for them. And they have put a lot of emphasis and effort into ensuring that their properties are ready. We have to understand too that as the hotel sector becomes ready, that they too understand very clearly, which is why the reason why they're opening, that the traveler, the new traveler, this evolving visitor that is now I don't want to say the COVID-19 visitor, right? But this evolving visitor behavior, people expect care. They expect us to provide care as the new service. We talk about service excellence, that warmth, and that charm, and that Grenadian personality, but they now expect care as that new service, right? And they are expecting the value of how you put your packages together, how beautiful the rooms look, how comfortable they are, how convenient the amenities are they available? The value is now the new currency for them, right? But most importantly, these visitors are looking for attitudes to hygiene. And this is where it is so important, where health and tourism is concerned, that we become, well, I think we're already a married entity, but, it is really important that we take that to another level. Because yes, we would do these things in the past, but now we have to do it at even increased level, a heightened level. Attitudes to hygiene is what's going to be on the top of their mind. Attention to detail. These visitors want to ensure that they want, trust me, I'm telling you, they want adventure, but listen, what they're really looking for is social. They still want to engage with you. They still want to be able to understand our lifestyles, to go into the communities. They still want to do all of those things, but guess what? They do not want to do it with crowding. So it's opportunity now for new business. Because if they want the social, but they don't want the crowded, and that of course goes great back with the what the health is requiring in terms of the physical distancing, it means that we're on the right path in terms of reshaping those products and services to ensure that we have it ready, we have it locked down. And as a result now, it gives the opportunity for other tourism businesses in the sector to look at how they are really reshaping the tours and the products, because that is where the crux of the matter would be now. In order for us to be able to fill that need, to understand that demand. If we don't do that, we will tend to, what will happen is that, we will fall back. And it is really important that we understand at this point that the protocols are important. Putting out there, ensuring that we are adhering and being consistent with the rules is important, that we all have our part to play, and in whichever sector that we belong to, because at the end of the day, that visitor wants to be able to engage, but engage how? So we need to be able to conform with that they're going to be looking for that special touch. They're going to be looking for that exclusivity, that special treatment. They're going to be looking for those off the beaten kind of tracks and tours. So for example, development of the Limleh Trail in Carriacou, for example, going to Sandy Island, doing a kayaking of the oyster bed, going to Granatang and doing the shoreline trail, doing things that make them one with nature, but of course being able to give them a little exercise, because I tell you, health and wellness is everything that people are talking about now, eh? We cannot at one point remove one from the other right now, because people's well-being is what they're most interested in. Knowing they're coming to a geotourism paradise, pure Grenada, spice of the Caribbean is something that is so very important, and we have so much to offer, so very much to offer when we talk about that.
But even with the reopening of the borders and some hotels opening, there are still some that have remained closed. And even last week, Spice Isle Beach Resort announced they won't be opening until next year, October. How is that expected to affect Grenada's tourism, including the revenue earning of the hotel sector?
Well, I can't speak to that. Can't answer your question directly, but what I can say is that the Spice Island Beach Resort is a very important part of the tourism product. They provide top-of-the-line luxury service for us. With regard to the other part of the accommodation sector, we have a very, very strong accommodation sector. Our top three in terms of the number of rooms, in terms of the larger facilities, are going to be open. The Sandals, the Royalton, which is going to be coming on November the 29th. And of course, Radisson is open, and those are our larger properties. So in terms of, that demand and that occupancy and the movement of people, we expect that the people will move. But of course, we have to take things in context, right? In terms of, what the CTO is saying and what UNWTO is saying in terms of how long it's going to take us to recover. But I think we need to make sure we have a measured pace, that the plans that we have developed for reopening, that we stay true to those, that the stakeholders who are a big part of that success, take on board what they need to do as well to make us as successful as we can be. But with everything, everything will take time for us to be able to marry it out. But in terms of the overall effect, we know that it will take some time to get it done. But we have no doubt that it will happen.
What's the next step in the rollout of the reopening?
Right. Okay. So part of the rollout for reopening was a pure safe travels approved stamp that the Grenada Tourism Authority would have developed, which identifies properties and businesses that are COVID smart and ready. Right. We have introduced that stamp, so you will actually see them in different places. Tourism places across the country in Grenada, Caribou, and Petit Martinique. But of course, there are other levels of that as well. So within the protocols, we speak to what needs to happen. But in terms of the pure safe travel stamp, that is almost like a promotional tool for us. But it also signifies that we are ready for business. And that is a very important key aspect of it for us as well. We have also been endorsed by the World Travel and Tourism Council with their safe travel stamp as well. And that is also recognized globally. And so those two things really go hand in hand in terms of what happens next. And ensuring that the stakeholders, of course, are with us every step of the way. Now, reinforcement of all of the work that has been done so far with those 2,000 plus persons that have been trained and in the tourism sector. And those numbers are climbing daily because we are making available the training online so that, different businesses and their teams can actually do them for us to be able to also get them ready as quickly as we can, right? So as I say, more power to technology. But that is really very important in terms of being ready. Also in terms of the airport, our welcome video that we have there in terms of, the work that our comms department has been doing with, ensuring that our nationals are aware of what is happening in tourism with our segments just before the news. Those things are very important for us. The ads and all of those things being able to help people understand the work that we have been doing and what we intend to continue to do and how we want to be able to involve them as well. And as I had indicated before, we are looking to see how we can make the protocols practical. So that's going to be something else that we're also going to be doing. We're also going to be looking at re-engaging our stakeholders with training. What can be done, refreshers, those are very important for us, but also in terms of what can we do next, right? Also being able to get that feedback from them so we can fine tune our actions for the last quarter and what happens for 2021.
The reopening of hotels also brings the anxiety from these hotel workers, the owners, about what can be expected. What has been some of the major concerns highlighted by the hotel workers, owners, when it comes to reopening and welcoming guests, not just local guests, but foreigners who will be coming into the island, especially from what we could maybe term COVID hotspots? What have been some of the major concerns from them?
Well, I don't think we've had, any major concerns. I think the main thing at the top of anybody's agenda is how do we ensure that we process the visitor properly, right? And what everybody has been trying to do is to follow the understand the entry requirements, but then being able to follow the protocols when it comes to processing or processing those guests when they actually come to the facility. So in terms of, what happens with your luggage, what happens at checking, be it that you're able to do it prior through express checking or not. But I think the accommodation sector right now, they are, based on the inspection that has been happening, they are looking to receive guests from the green, yellow, and red zone. But of course, when it comes to what happens at the facility, we have to ensure that they follow the COVID-19 guidelines and protocols, and that everything runs smoothly from there.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and open the platform and the phone lines for our viewers and listeners who may have questions for Mrs. Hoshtialik in relation to tourism. This is To The Point, Classic, and GBN. We'll be right back.
Reading is too hard. Reading school books is lame. I'd rather read about children like me and cool things. I can read, but sometimes I don't even know why I have to. It makes no sense.
Why can't we read about things we like?
Reading is the key to unlocking all learning and ensuring that children reach their potential. Here's what the children have to say.
Make reading fun. Teach me how to read, but let me practice reading with things I like to read.
Talk with me and read with me, at least for a short time every day.
Let me tell you my own stories.
Read, learn, grow. The children are the future. Help them read, learn, grow. So parents, you play a part.
This message is brought to you by the OECS USAID Early Learners Program, funded by United States Agency for International Development.
EC Polymer Notes, our new money.
Here's how you can detect genuine EC polymer notes. Feel. Polymer notes feel smoother than the material from which paper notes are made. Also, the front of each note has raised bumps at the top left-hand corner. These bumps form shapes that are familiar to you. Look for the clear window at the front and back of each note. This window allows you to see through the notes. If you hold the notes up to the light, you'll see the value of the note in an area of plain colored print. Tilt. A holographic foil is on the $100, $50, and $20. The images move and their colors change when you tilt the notes. Remember, detecting genuine EC polymer notes is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Feel, look, and tilt.
EC Polymer Notes. Cleaner, safer, stronger.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Manager of Product Development and Research at the Grenada Tourism Authority, Curl Grant Hoshtialik. At this point in the program, we're going to open the platform for viewers and listeners who may have questions for Mrs. Hoshtialik in relation to the tourism industry. 435-2041, that's the landline number. It's also the WhatsApp number. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp. No voice or video calls, no YouTube links, pictures or videos. Only written messages, please, on the WhatsApp. You can also ask your questions on the GBN Television Facebook page and the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel. Before the phone rings, Mrs. Hoshtialik, moving forward with the tourism industry, we've been saying for the past few months, it's not normal times. Sorry, yeah. We've been saying for the past few months, it's not normal times or under COVIDious times. How will we go forward with the tourism industry under this new dispensation? What are the plans?
The plans are awareness, communicating, more PR, getting people more involved, training, reinforcement. That is the plan, right? But then there will be another stage when it comes to those training and being ready. We have to talk about things like getting the stakeholder ready for e-commerce, cashless transactions, being able to provide digital tours to encourage and entice, motivate those potential visitors to choose you, to remember what, for those who are repeat visitors, to remember what Belmont Estate it looks like, to remember what the Mona Monkey looked like. We need to be able to create those virtual tours to enhance and to entice. And then we need to be able to make that link, that final sale for you to get on that plane and come to us, right? So that whole virtual component, virtual reality, we want to be able to look at supporting a lot of events also virtually, because we understand that they, as we continue to manage during this period, we know that things are going to change, and we have been adapting. And we understand too that the stakeholders have been adapting. So it's just a matter of how do we ensure that we have it all locked down, and work has been steady on that stream to make that happen.
All right, let's go to, okay, I think we lost that. Yes, we lost that caller. I was about to go to a caller. Let me scroll through the social media. All right, back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Yes, I would like to ask your guest, the tourist industry has collapsed. I want to know if the employees, are they at full staff, because they would have less work to do. I want to know if they're full staffed presently. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Well, I was about to ask if he meant hotels or the GTA, but I guess you can.
Staff. Okay, all right. With regard to the employees, each business, would have its individual challenges with regard to staffing and the number of employees that they have. But in some instances, all employees, for example, at Sandals are back out. So all the employees with Sandals are there. You have other facilities, of course, that may have people on rotation. But I think at the end of the day, is based on the different business decisions that the various facilities will have. Some will have full staff on, some may have some staff on rotation.
All right, good morning, caller.
Yeah, good morning, Blossom, and good morning to your guests.
Morning.
Yes, I must say that before I make my point, I just want to give recognition to the Alliance of Evangelical Churches, who spearheaded the national Thanksgiving island-wide motorcade on Saturday, and I know that God would have taken notice of that, and God is well pleased. And so that has set the platform for institutions like the Tourism Authority, who have been on standstill, and all the other organizations who have been standstill for this period of the pandemic. Sometimes I think we bypass the significance of the church. Right, the church has a very important role to play in our society. And it is so fitting that we had that Thanksgiving motorcade, because God has been so gracious to us, so merciful to us, that we had 24 cases of the virus, and all the persons recovered. And so I'm so happy that we had that motorcade, and now organizations like the tourism sector can reopen now. It's not going to be easy because as I can't remember the lady's name, she said that it's the new normal, so things would not be how it was before. But we cannot remain in a standstill position, but with God by our side, we will do what we have to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller. There's a question on the WhatsApp that asks, what are the plans to quarantine visitors coming into the hotel, such as Sandals and others?
All right. So, well, firstly, I would like to, agree with the caller that Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique are certainly blessed. We have been blessed during this pandemic, and although we do have our challenges as a nation, we are taking things in stride. At the end of the day, historical religious tourism is also a very important part of what we do, be that people are going into churches to pray, or be that they're just looking at the wonderful architecture that we do have. With regard to the quarantine for visitors, the Ministry of Health will be taking the lead on that. Should the visitors, people who are actually coming into the country, be it as visitors, residents, or the like, the Ministry of Health will be taking the lead with regard to quarantine and where they will be quarantined.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Is it Blossom?
Yes, it is.
Yes, good morning. I just want to find out if there would be any international flights from New York to Grenada during this time.
All right. Thank you, caller.
You're welcome.
With regard to so far, persons coming in from New York are connecting through Air Canada. Through Canada, through the Air Canada flight. The Air Canada flight resumes in October. With regard, though, for direct flights from New York, we expect, which will, of course, will be confirmed later on, most likely next month, or with regard to what's happening with the expected calls from JetBlue, American Airlines, and others. Right now, with regard to flights coming in from New York, those are chartered flights. So once you book, you could always contact Astral Travel. They would be able to have those flights coming in.
Okay, so just to clarify, the arrival of flights from New York and maybe other parts of the U.S. as well depends on when the airlines themselves start the service, or is it up to us to give them the green light? Because I know when we reopened to other countries in July, in August, the U.S. was not on the list of countries that we were welcoming then. So right now, it's not necessarily up to us when to give them the green light. It's up to when the airline starts the service.
When they're ready, because there are a lot of other rules and there are a lot of other protocols and guidelines that need to be ironed out before that actually happens. So yes, the airlift does sit a lot with what is happening from that end, from the international end, with those actual air carriers.
Is it, for lack of a better word, safe to open our borders to countries like the U.S. where the COVID is so much prevalent? It's not to say it's 1 or 2 cases. We're talking millions of cases. Is it safe at this point?
Blossom. Safety is, in this context, understanding the level of risk. I think this is exactly why the entry requirements were designed, for us to be able to manage that, for us to be able to understand how that fluid the situation is, and understanding that today you may only have 20 new cases and then tomorrow you're seeing it's 1,000 plus. So when you're talking about the safety, I think the best thing that Grenada has done so far was to ensure that we have a mechanism in place for the entry requirements, but also in terms of on the ground, what happens next.
The cruise ship industry, that has been another part of the sector that has been hit hard because of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a question on WhatsApp that is asking the status of the winter cruise ship season. Would we see cruise ships arriving in Grenada anytime soon?
Well, I think I have a short answer for that one. I know what we are expecting some smaller ships later on this year that to be confirmed in more details a little bit later on as well.
The protocols for that, I know you say not as yet, but the protocols for that as well. What are some of the things that need to be considered reopening the cruise ship part of the sector? Because it's different to airlines and so on and so forth.
That's
cruise
right.
ship, it's hundreds of passengers at one time compared to, let's say, 90 on a plane. What are the things that need to be considered for the cruise ship sector?
Right. You're right. The cruise industry and the lines, and there have been a number of conversations up to yesterday with regard to, different proposals, what needs to be done on both ends, be it's through our Miami connections or be it, the actual cruise lines are actually coming through from Europe. But the actual protocols for us to be able to execute those on the ground, those are currently being fine-tuned and developed on this end with the relevant parties. So the Grenada Ports Authority, for example, our Nautical Development Manager, Nicoyanne Roberts, she is the one that's leading the charge on that end.
For the revitalization of the tourism industry,
right,
it requires all hands on deck. What has the mode of our vendors been like? Because they are some of the people that have been really hit hard with the closure of our borders, the shutting down of the tourism industry, as temporary as it was. What's the mode and mindset of our vendors now that the season is about to restart?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I said, with regard to the actual vendors, right? So we're talking about the spice vendors, the beach share operator. We're talking about vendors in general. Of course, things have been very slow for them, and we really are hoping that between what happens with the stayover visitors and what happens with the other major niches that we have, yachting and cruise, that those things do start to bounce back. In observation, things are really, have slowed. But we are looking very forcefully in terms of trying to strategize how do we incorporate the vast number of craft and other artisans that we have to integrate them into different types, into different ways of doing business. So say, for example, we're preparing for cruise, for example. What we would be looking at is how do you prepare, repackage the way that they do business. Right. So instead of them, for example, being that one-on-one entrepreneur, right, doing that single sale, there's opportunity for you to do it otherwise. Right. So, for example, like sandals would have their open day. You have the craft people, for example, but being able to have rotations. We actually look for particular products for particular trade shows. We need to be more strategic in order to have them included. Right. And so that is pretty much, we need to be very strategic in terms of how we approach vendors in the future.
Our tourism sites as well, how have the protocols been put in place for the running of our sites? In addition to the visitors, we also have locals who may be visiting these sites as well. And
That's
with
right.
the influx of people at the sites as the economy gets going again, how are we controlling what takes place and controlling the protocols at our sites?
Right. So the protocols for the attractions for the sites, they are aware of those. They have been trained for receiving the guest, and as a result, there's been inspection as well at those sites. Right. So in terms of being COVID ready and having and incorporating the cleaning, sanitizing, disinfecting on the sites. So we have been streamlining those. So far to date, we have a number of attractions that are ready. So your Fort George, your Fort Frederick, Grand Tank, for example, some of the private sector, the House of Chocolate, Belmont Estate, these attractions are ready to go. And we're actively, the Quality Assurance Department of the GTA is working along with the Ministry of Health to be able to do the inspections of these different attractions so that we know that they're ready to reopen.
Somebody is asking about the folks who are arriving on chartered flights, if they will be quarantined before going to hotels, and if yes, what period of time?
Well, in terms of that quarantining coming in on the charter flights, I know that the charter flights have been handled by a third party, but with regard to the quarantine, the Ministry of Health makes that decision in terms of at the airport point, what needs to happen, and it also goes back in terms of what zone you're coming from. If you're coming from within the bubble, for example, within the Caribbean region, we know that is not a problem. But once you're coming from a high-risk zone, the Ministry of Health will take the lead, and they will know if you're required to stay quarantined at a government-approved facility, or if you have made prior reservations to come to Grenada, you will go to your approved tourism accommodation.
Speaking of quarantine, the 14-day quarantine, some people have expressed their desire not to travel at this time because of the 14-day quarantine. How do you think this would affect arrivals into the island?
Well, there's different schools of thoughts on that. And, I think the primary one that we need to really touch here is the fact that generally, if people have booked and are ready to come to your island, that, generally people don't travel if they're ill, right? So in terms of the 14 days quarantine being a deterrent, it may be, right? But we're hoping to finalize and revise protocols very soon that would look at taking those into consideration as well.
All right, let me go to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Talking about the protocol, I have noticed many little shops, cook shops, who sell snacks and even food, rotis and so on. There are 2 or 3 people or sometimes more in the little shops, very close to the road also. They're not wearing the mask, but they're selling food, What about that? What needs to be done concerning that in inspection?
All right, thank you, caller.
The different eateries, generally in Grenada, food and beverage services. So those, for example, what he would have been talking about, the food shop on the side of the road, those would be managed, or should I say, inspected, and enforcement will be done by the Ministry of Health. There is a Public Health Act, and as a result, they really should be following the rules. And as a result, what we will do, through this caller, is to be able to escalate the fact that, we do have people that are not following the protocols, which are so very important.
We seem to have lost that caller. Let me make a scroll through social media before I go back to the phone lines. All right, back to the phones. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. Just trying to get something clarified. The Ministry of Tourism. Now, seeing that the tourist sector has gone quiet for the moment, there isn't much activity. I would wish to know if the Ministry of Tourism have scaled down their staff or if they are at full staff presently, based on they would have less work to do. So I want to know if they have reduced their staff during the period where the tourist industry has gone down. Thank you very much.
That's the caller from the very first caller that wanted to know about the reduction in staff. If it's from, the Ministry or the GTA have reduced staff. Have they?
Not as far as I am aware, that has not been the case. There's been so many things to do at preparation on the various sites, as pretty much work as usual with the tourism industry. As they say, with the pandemic, so many other things have come into play. And as a result, a lot of the activities behind the scenes still needs to be done. And as a result, the teams at the Ministry of Tourism and at the Grenada Tourism Authority have been working steadfastly to put some
Okay, just unmute your mic. It just muted itself. Can you hear me? Yeah, it muted itself. Technology again. Let's go back to the phone lines. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning. I'm just wondering, What happened a couple of weeks ago when they had 2 persons coming in and they test negative in Grenada and they went to Canawan in just about an hour or 2 and they test positive. Now when people come off the cruise ship and they may test negative and they have this system in their body, how would you know that they could come and they test negative and by the time they get out there, they're positive and they start spreading it?
Thank you, caller. Sash Shelley?
Right. We understand fully that, the safety of the Grenadian people, the people of Carriacou, Petit Martinique are our top priority. When it comes to your concern with regard to the process and procedure for cruise ship passengers, we are at this very moment finalizing and fine-tuning those mechanisms, those protocols to ensure that, there's nothing that's perfect, but to ensure that nothing goes through the crack and that we've thought of everything as much as possible to ensure that the protocols are adhered to and that we ensure that the stakeholders, the Grenadian population, remain safe.
A Facebook question: what are the plans the tourism department has for the crew members of the various cruise ships that had to come home and now struggling gaining employment? Plans for Grenadian cruise ship workers, what are plans for them, if any, to get gainful employment?
I am unaware of anything at this moment, so I'll have to defer that question. But I mean, overall, generally, we know that the industry, the people, the businesses, it will take a little while to be able to get back where we were. Based on the projections from, different entities and researching companies across the world, we're looking at 3 to 5 years before we are pre-COVID-19 in terms of our level of visitor numbers. So it's going to take us a little while to get there. And as well, we need to be able to take employment with that in terms of in train as well. So we need to be able to manage how we are looking at developing the tourism product, how we are looking at reopening the different aspects, the different tours. How do we manage those staff in the context of what it is that we're providing the services for? So we need to then look at this thing more holistically to ensure that we have taken all into consideration.
Any updates on the staycation promotion that started a few weeks ago?
We're actually doing very well. We have a number of tour operators and hotels that are participating in the program. So, of course, I'm going to put a plug in here for Paradise at Home. I did it with my children the other day, and, I'm encouraging every Grenadian to do something different. Be it is that you decide that you're leaving home and you're going south, or you're leaving home in the south and you're going to the north or to the west or to the east. Be it is something as simple as, buying something from one of the vendors on the side of the road, be it is your watermelon or whatnot. All of those things go such a long way and so very important. But our Paradise at Home and even our Just For You campaigns, those are campaigns that are encouraging persons, to come to Grenada and for the local populace to be able to support our growing economy.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up the program?
Well, I would just like to remind, stakeholders that reopening, it is a journey, and it's a journey where we want to have everybody involved. We know that it's not going to be an easy task, but we've put so many plans and actions in place so far, which you are very much a big part of. Now it is our responsibility collectively that we execute and implement those protocols, the plans and the guidelines, because only through you are we successful. And if it means that we want to be able to continue to grow, to look at ingenious and creative ways to do business, we really do need to be able to look at thinking out of the box in a lot of instances, understanding that we have an evolving visitor profile that's coming on stream. And meeting those expectations and those demands, we need to be able to conform, well, not conform, but be able to, when you have a puzzle and you need to be able to put those things in the right slots, we need to be able to find a way to ensure to find a way to ensure that we're able to provide those expected experiences. And we need to ensure that those remain memorable, because that is where repeat visitors come from. Our diaspora is a very important part of the tourism mix, and our visitors from North America and the UK are also very important. The USA is our #1 market, and that is also very important for us. And as a result, we really do need collectively, as a nation in Grenada, Carriacou, Petit Martinique, to put our protocols in action, making the protocols practical, helping each other along as we look at ensuring that we are successful in the work that we do every day for the improvement of Grenada, for the betterment of Grenada, and for the rejuvenation of the tourism industry.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hoshtialik, for being our guest this morning. Appreciate the information that you've shared with us, and do have yourselves a productive Wednesday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Blossom, and to all of you. It was wonderful being here today.
Thank you so much. Enjoy. That was Manager of Product Development and Research at the Grenada Tourism Authority, Curl Grant Hoshtialik. We thank her for being our guest this morning. And thank you, our viewers and listeners, for tuning into the program. That's the end of my time today. Janelle is up next with a mid-morning buzz. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, God willing. Until then, stay safe and have yourselves a productive and blessed Wednesday.